Hello, my name is Trevor Gerhart, and I did my term paper on problems implementing security policies. So the start of the paper has a section talking about security policies and kind of what they are and what benefits they bring. A policy is any guideline that dictates certain behavior within an organization. You could even extend that out to like federal government and policy and how that works. That's just the general term for policy. But we're going to be taking a more minute look into just information system security policies. Within that, there are three policy categories: enterprise information security policy, which is the executive level stuff. It's kind of a broad cultural look at their security policy. We have issue specific security policies and system specific policies. These are a little more detailed about certain things within the organization. Um, and a properly developed and implemented security policy enables information security programs to function almost seamlessly within an organization. There are some crazy benefits to security policies. For some of those that don't really require a lot of technical or physical controls, they cost only the time and effort to create, approve, and communicate them by the management team, and they cost only time and effort by the employees to integrate them into their everyday workflow. Um, this can be very important because for some information assets, this may be the only control that you have um, protecting that asset. So the main problem that we're going to find implementing security policies is non-compliance. Users can be informed and agree to information security policies, but they might not comply with them or listen to them. This can typically result from the worker's attitude towards how the policy is going to affect their productivity. We'll kind of break that down and look at that a little further later on. It can also result just from forgetfulness. I know that kind of plagues humanity across the board. And then uncontrolled behavior, and by that we're talking about situations in which there might have been corners cut for time, or it might have been a semi-emergency situation where the policy wasn't followed to the T. But non-compliance can pretty simply be reduced through proper policy enforcement. So as long as you're following up with your workers and trying to make sure that these policies are being enforced, you should be fine. So another problem that we can have integrating security policy is through distributed computing networks. Um, so when these policies are designed, it's typically centrally involved because you have all of your information asset pieces within the organization. That's going to be the immediate thing that you think of, but in more recent times, especially through 2020, we're starting to see the work from home thing take off. We're starting to see users being able to bring in their own devices, and sometimes these devices might not be set up correctly, or with the distance working and things like that. The user themselves must manage their device. So non-compliance can become a major problem through a distributed computing network. Um, it can be as simple as if one user doesn't follow the policy, the entire network can become at risk just through viruses and things along those natures. And your central resources that are much easier for your information security team to manage, like routers, firewalls, and servers, might not be able to eliminate the problem entirely. Um, like I said, whenever you're accessing that network and your device isn't set up correctly, there can be many issues, and that's all through your security policy. Um, you might have problems implementing if there is too much security for the organization culture. Um, if there are too many policy controls, that can make it hard to access data that is used frequently. You might see some resistance to your policy. Some of the organizations that are out there also believe in the dissemination of information to its users. So if you set up too many policy controls to protect that information, even though the organization believes it should be readily available, there can be problems there. But alternatively, too little security could lead to catastrophe. So the information security team has to work alongside the executives to determine the level of acceptable risk, the risk appetite for the organization. Um, you can have employee distrust. So as you set up more policies, employees might start to feel as though the information security team is quote unquote out to get them, or through too much surveillance without respect to privacy, the employees can become uncomfortable. They may feel their privacy is being invaded, their productivity is being slowed, or creativity limited by the strict policies of the organization. And distrust can result from the employee's insight being left out of policy decisions as well. Um, all users of the system kind of are held to some degree to being responsible to the entire program running smoothly. So it's important to get their insight as well. And should you decide not to do so, there can be problems implementing. A lack of awareness can cause many issues trying to implement your security policy. These policies have to be communicated and understood by employees, and that's well beyond just sending them a paper and having them sign something or check a box. It's the understanding part. A lack of awareness can result from subpar training policies or subpar training on policies, as well as the risk of exposing the network beyond the information security team. Um, so I'd say just through onboarding or things along those nature, this can help reduce the problems. But um, without training your employees on the things that matter regarding information security, they're not going to know what's going on, and they're going to be confused, and they're going to fall into a state of non-compliance. Most of these problems are going to lead to non-compliance, and that is one of the biggest issues implementing security policies. Um, you can also create a false sense of security with your policies. As these IT threats are evolving, your information security policy should as well. This is going to be more regarding the issue-specific policies and the system policies. So if your policies work for 2020, but as technology is progressing and in 2022, new threat agents are available to attackers, your current security mechanisms may not be adequate. The policies regarding those mechanisms might not work well any longer. You can also develop a false sense of security by communicating and having everybody sign off on these policies, but they're not actually being enforced by the information security team. So they're not being checked up on. They have agreed to it, but they might not actually be in compliance because nobody is checking. And you can also get a false sense of security from your security systems being not being updated. And typically your security policy is going to reflect when these updates should be done, how often you should be checking for updates, things along those lines. You can have management troubles trying to implement your policies. Management must understand how crucial the information security program is to the operations for the organization. They may think that security is too expensive or their information resources don't contain anything worth taking. But like I said, policy, it's just time and effort. The controls that regarding some of the policies, like there can be some physical stuff in there and that costs money, but establishing policy in general doesn't cost money. And then regarding the whole, we don't have anything worth taking, or it's just some information that doesn't lead to anything, some very basic stuff. Security through obscurity equals no security. So if the management team decides to just say, oh, we can ignore that, there's no important information there, they're still at major risk. These attackers might not steal that information, but they can use the resources to help with their attacks. They can route attacks through your network. They can store the stolen information on your network, and that kind of puts the whole organization at risk. You can also have problems implementing. I know I talked about enforcing policy, but this is enforcing policy violations. So in the situation that you find people in non-compliance, typically in your policy there is some kind of punishment, typically like revoking network privileges, things along those lines. But in some organizations, when there is a violation, there's no real punishment imposed on the employees. Now, in some situations, minor little issues, it might not result in any major problems coming from it, but it's if it continuously happens, there might be a major problem. We don't know when our organization is going to be attacked, and that's kind of the point of enforcing policy violations. Um, should the organization decide to do so, this kind of creates that culture of we care about our information security. And then one of the last problems to implementing security policy is organization politics. I feel this might not be as much of a problem nowadays, but for some large organizations or where there's departments vying to get some more power within the organization, that this could be some major hindrance to policy implementation. Um, some might view the information security policy as a way for that department to seize power within the organization. Um, People look at some of these policies like the information security team is just paranoid or they're trying to hinder them getting their job done. Um, or in certain situations, the information security team says, hey, follow this policy, but department managers don't see the point in it, so they communicate to the employees down below them that you don't really need to comply with this, and they're gonna say something to these guys and protect their employees. Um, but all in all, that can create major issues because non-compliance is one of the leading causes to any issues regarding information security. It's all kind of stemmed from users, uh, as long as everything is designed right from the start. Um, so, yep, that is my presentation. Take a look at the paper and you'll see these are expanded upon quite substantially. And I appreciate the structure of this class from the start. This has been my best online class. And this is my second time taking you, Dr. Liu, and it's been a fantastic experience. Thank you.